Welcome, guys, to 31 Vision Podcast. This is your first time viewing us. The podcast is intended for high school athletes transitioning from high school to college that want to play college sports. So we bring on current or former athletes, and we also bring on business owners, so you can see different career choices you can choose coming out of high school or college. And without further ado, man, why don't you introduce yourself?
What's up, guys? Devin Delatorre from Miami, Florida, born and raised from the county of Dade.
A fellow 31.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, man. 31. Been rocking 31 since I was a little jit.
Same, bro. For me, it started in high school. The number was given to me. I didn't want it at first.
Same.
Like in 8th grade in the summer. And I was like, I don't want this. I want like 1, 2, like anything 1 through 9.
Funny. All right. So for me, I used to wear 11.
Okay.
Right. So I had an uncle of mine. You know, I started t-ball or baseball when I was very young. And he used to be like, oh, what number should I get? You know, I never had a number. And he's like, get 11. And I'm like, okay, why? And he goes, because you're 2 times better than number 1.
I like it.
And I'm a cocky person too. So like, I was like, yeah, I like it. We're riding. So I rocked 11 up until 8th grade, where I started traveling team for basketball.
Okay.
And I didn't go to the practice the day that they gave jerseys out. And there was either 31, 33, and like 20 something.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll take 31. Cause like you think of 33 and like immediately, obviously basketball, as you think of like Shaq or like Alonzo Mourning. Yeah. And I'm like, those are big guys. I want, you know,
I'm a shooter.
I'm a shooter. Exactly. Give me Reggie Miller. So I took 31 and then I've been wearing 31 ever since. Never looked back.
Same here, bro. I had the choice after my freshman year of high school, because people graduated and they're like, what do you want? And I was like, I'm rocking with 31.
Yeah.
F it, whatever.
It just looks nice, man.
It grows on you, because once a number has sentimental value, like every person I brought in here that plays sports, they all feel the same way about their number. They're like, that's my number, you know, like it means something.
100%.
Gives you superpowers.
No, yeah. Now I got my kid who rock at 31.
There we go.
Yeah. So it's like, it even means even more now.
Pay it forward, man. You know,
of course.
Goes by. So you were talking a little bit about playing sports, man. So when did you start? What was your first sport?
So I started young, obviously t-ball. Started with baseball,
like every Hispanic
person, you know, because you know you come from Cuba and
gotta do it.
Ese es mío, and it's gonna be the next superstar. So I played baseball. I mean, and I always had love for basketball. You know, it was obviously Michael Jordan growing up. That's the only person that I was allowed to watch to stay up late. You know, mom, hey, bedtime at 8, bedtime at 9. And then that NBC song would hit, that and Michael Jordan was on. I was like, Mom, let me stay a little bit. And so I always had love for basketball, but early age played baseball. And then up until like 11, 12 years old is when I started to hoop, and played at Miami, and then I started playing in middle school.
Did you play Hoop It Up? Back when it was like things got intense out there.
Yeah, of course. Of course. Every Hoop It Up, we went to like the Delray Beach one. Like we would travel, like the ones around.
Yeah.
Super obsessed with basketball. Played football for a year.
Okay.
Mom was like, you're not doing that. I was a little guy.
Hispanic moms are like that, bro. Yeah. It took my mom a lot to like, let me play football.
I'll never forget. I showed up, you know, obviously to my first practice, whatever. She was there watching. And she's like, no. You know, like I need to make sure you're safe. We ended up going to Sports Authority, right? Back in the day.
Rest in peace.
I know. And she made me get that neck pad.
Oh, the cowboy collar.
Yes. And bro, all the extra stuff that I didn't need, you know, because at that time, like, I think I was playing tight end, you know, like and I was like, you know, this isn't for me.
My mom made me get one in Pop Warner too.
Yeah. She's like, we're going to save your life if you wear that. And I'm like, okay, Mom, you know, sure. I was the only guy wearing it.
Of course you were.
So that probably neck pad was probably a head pad, because it got all the way back up here. Like, yeah, I can't move. So I played 1 year football. Then, you know, then it was just basketball and baseball up until my sophomore year. So my sophomore year, I'm playing varsity baseball. And I'm playing varsity basketball.
What did you play in baseball?
I played third base, second base. Yeah.
Where the action was. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Had a good arm, and I was never scared of the ball. That was something my dad always told me, that I was like, it's like, you were so great when you were young because you always attacked the ball. and kids, when their first instinct is always back.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you always went forward. So that's why like I always used to love the hot corner and play third. And then so I played baseball up until, sophomore year. And, we finished our basketball season. And then after baseball season starts. And, my head coach is like, all right, we had 5 seniors graduating. You're up now. You're going to be a junior now. You're my starting 2 guard. I need you to focus on basketball.
Let's go.
And I was like, all right, yeah, whatever. And he goes, that means you got to cut baseball.
Oh no. Going from like happy to sad. You're
correct.
like, oh,
and I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, yeah, you got to pick one sport. Cause we play basketball all year round. There's tournaments, there's this and that. And I was like, all right. So I went, had a conversation with my dad. I'm like, what do I do?
He was all baseball, right?
No.
No?
So my dad had the same situation back in Cuba.
Okay.
Right. So he used to play for the university baseball. Right. And he used to play basketball as well. And he got an opportunity to keep playing basketball. So he ended up on the national team B squad for basketball. And this was in the 70s when Cuba actually got a bronze medal in basketball.
Nice.
In the Olympic Games in Munich. That was 72. I mean, obviously he's told me this 100 times.
Of course, you'd never forget it.
Of course. So he chose basketball. It's crazy. So, which, in Cuba, I get it because there's not much competition over there. Here I should have chosen baseball, to be honest, because, I'm not 6'5" and I don't dunk. So it's not much.
That's half the battle.
Yeah. So, I was like, I told my dad, I was like, bro, basketball's basketball to me. I have to go basketball. So I talked to my coach and I'm like, all right, let's do this. I'm all in. So that's sophomore year, end of sophomore year, because, baseball is like latter half of the year. So end of sophomore year, all summer, I am busting my ass, working in the gym, in the weight room with my coaches, going to Orlando to this team breakdown, tournament, going to 5-star basketball camp, which at that time was like the best basketball camp. I went to the one in Pennsylvania, went to one in Tallahassee. Like I was all in. So my junior year starts, right? And I'm like, I'm the starting 2 guard. This is my team. I'm about to drop 40 a game, all this stuff, whatever. Last day of transfers, he brings someone in.
Oh no.
Yeah. Immediately goes to the bench. I go to the bench. And bro, for a 15-year-old kid, because that's another thing. I was younger. I was like, I graduated at 17. So okay. I was a younger 15-year-old. Like, so I was 15 in my junior year. Bro, confidence is so important, right? Like, and these coaches sometimes they don't understand that if you give a young kid some confidence, that it's a different player, like completely different player. Yeah. Like if I look at the way I would play my junior year versus my senior year, because I ended up transferring out, which we'll get to, it's completely different.
Not the same Devin.
Not the same Devin. And it's just because my coach was like, this is your team. I need you to drop 30 in order for us to win. Yeah. And it's that simple. I don't care what it takes. That's what you're doing. And then my junior year, it was like, all right, now you're a 6-man coming off the bench, but if you don't have the open shot, don't take it, be more passive. And I'm a shooter. I'm not a passive person. Yeah. So I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. So anyways, fast forward, first practice, very first practice, immediately, hey, Devin, you're with the second team. This kid, you're with the first team. I'm like, holy crap. That was the worst year of
it's a gut punch.
Yeah, man. That was the worst year of like my sports life, right? Because I was very fortunate where my dad has been to every single one of my games. I mean, I had a game last night, an adult league game last night, and he was there because he just enjoys it. Yeah. He enjoys watching me play. So that year, my dad was so pissed off that he wouldn't go to my games.
Did he ever like tell off the coach or anything?
Oh my God, 100 times, and they went at it and the whole 9.
I'm sure.
So obviously halfway through the year, I already know I'm gone. Like I was at Miami Christian, which when I got to Miami Christian, that was a powerhouse school. It was a school that had JJ Barrera, had Guillermo Diaz, which is this guy that got drafted by the Clippers. So like it was a powerhouse school. Sure. But you know, I was like, I don't care. I just want to play. Yeah. You know? And so I'm obviously looking at schools to transfer out to, and I ended up at St. Brendan.
So question, what was the trend? Because in the past, like few years or so, transferring has changed. I don't know if you've heard it at high school. I'm super envious of it, by the way. But so back then, so for the kids in high school now, how was it to transfer? Like, what was the process?
So the funny story is that when obviously we had that argument with my coach, and he knew that I was gone. Yeah. Like he knew, like I was checked out halfway through that year. And it's not like I was not playing. I was playing. I was sixth man coming off the bench, but it was just a different role that I worked for 8-9 months.
He killed you.
You know, and just in 1 second, he just crushed me. And as a 15-year-old, that's tough to come back.
Yeah.
And so I'm there trying to transfer, looking for schools. Finally, I come up on St. Brendan, had some ties there with some players and stuff. So I was like, that's where I'm going. So I go to the office. I'll never forget this. It's the last week of school. We're like in May. And I go to the office to get my transfer papers. And my principal didn't sign the papers. He's like, coach says that he doesn't want you to transfer.
Oh, hell no.
Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, yeah, coach wants to have a meeting, us three. And if you want your dad to come in, he can. And I was like, I'm gone. Like, there's nothing you can tell me to stay.
Right.
Like, I'm gone. And he's like, well, can you just sit down on the meeting or whatever? Bro, we have a meeting. It's head coach, me, and principal. Right. Me and the principal were super cool.
Pops didn't come?
No.
You just got out the way. You're like, I know it's a no.
Correct. Yeah. No, I think my dad would have burned that school down if he got invited over there. I'll be honest with you. With his half English, half Spanish, you know.
He would have ripped him. He would have ripped him.
So get into his office and he's like, look, you know, you're an asset and this and that. And obviously doing the coach thing. And I'm like, look, man, I'm gone. You know, you already ruined 1 year of my high school. I don't want to be here anymore. You know, so I'm gone or whatever. And I'm like, I'm going to let you know how my dad works. You know, if you don't sign these documents, my dad's going to bring lawyers in and I'm the whole nine. Yeah. You know, I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah.
You know, so thankfully they ended up signing the paperwork and I was able to get into St. Brendan, where it was the best decision of my life. You know, honestly, I had an amazing year. You know, was like MVP of the team, honorable mention, Miami-Dade, you know, went to the All-Star game and, you know, the Miami-Dade All-Star game, like 3-point competition, the whole nine, you know, had a wonderful year.
That's how you finished right there.
Yeah. We ended up playing my old school, Miami Christian.
Ooh.
Beat them by 25.
Nice. That must have felt amazing.
Yes. And again, like.
Give me goosebumps.
Bro, we go back to confidence, right? Ooh. I'll never forget. We're in the locker room right before the game, right? And my head coach has never done this before. My current head coach has never done this before. He goes, guys, we're going to win the tip. And this is the first play we're running. And it was like a double screen where I come off and right in front of my team's bench, shoot a three.
And psychological warfare.
Oh my God. Of course, we run that play and I hit the three.
Splash.
Bro. Turn around, staring at my coach, talking shit to my old teammates.
Ooh,
oh my God.
Candela.
We blow them out the water. You know, obviously super happy that day.
Of course.
You know, my dad, SME, you know, and so fast forward to the end of senior year, right? And this is where, you know, obviously you have that big decision. Like, what are we going to do next?
Right.
You know, I got accepted into FIU, right? And then, you know, I had gotten contacted by the school called Weber International University. They're like by Lakeland.
Yeah, I know. Right? I know Weber. Yeah.
They're an NAIA school, right? They're like, hey, you know, we want you to come out and try out. Mind you, I'm 17 at this time. You know, I'm still, and at that age, 17, 18, 19, 20, there's a big difference, you know, is
sure.
So I get to the tryout and there's just a bunch of 19, 20-year-old guys. And I'm just like, I feel like a little kid in a room full of men. I really felt that way, but I ball, right? I changed my position, right? Cause I was a shooting guard, right? In high school, but I was like, I can't play shooting guard in college at 6 feet. I need to run point.
Yeah.
So I told coaches and players there, I'm like, no, I'm here to run point. So I changed my game mid tryout, and I'm like running point, and I start, dishing. And when I'm open, I'm shooting threes, whatever. Had an amazing try, right? Coach calls me back and was like, hey, we want you to walk on, right? Because I'm not familiar, but I don't think NAIA gives like school sports scholarships, or they only have certain limited.
From what I understand, yeah.
They're like limited,
yeah,
or something like that. So it was like you need.
I don't think they give full scholars. It's like it's like D3s. Like you have to find like academic money and loopholes,
something like that. So it's like we could get you on like on a Hispanic scholarship, and then this and that, and we can make it work. And he's like, "Can you come in for a second tryout?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course." He goes, "Bring one of your parents, because we're gonna talk about what the future looks like and all this stuff." So I go to Weber International. Crush it again. At this time, during this time, I'm training. I'm waking up at 5:30 in the morning, putting up 500 threes, putting up 500 free throws, doing step backs, doing all these drills, Thankfully, I had like a little half court at my house. So that's what waking up, going, and then, going to school or work, because I would work with my pops at the time. And go to our second trial, crush it. We have our sit down with our coach. He tells me, he's like, listen, you're very young. I don't think your body's developed yet. I could get you there. So I think the first year we can medically redshirt you. We could find a loophole somewhere. Yeah. We can medically redshirt you. And then maybe your following year, if you're not ready, we can redshirt you again. Something like that.
So guys, for those of you, sorry to interrupt. So for those of you that don't know what a red shirt is, or a medical red shirt, a red shirt is like you're on the team, you're a part of the whole process, but like when they travel, you would stay home, but you're still a part of the squad, and you're kind of like they're molding you for the next year. And then medical red shirt is like you got in this case you got injured. Yeah. You had like a knee injury or something, and then so they're trying to give Devin 2 years without taking away his eligibility.
So essentially, starting my third year of college, I'd be a freshman in basketball work.
Yeah.
So we're like, all right, we'll get back to you. We'll talk to you and stuff like that. And at the time, obviously my parents being immigrants and not being very familiar with the system, I'm telling my dad, I'm like, I don't want to go to college for 6 years. Like, I'm like, there's no way. Like, so I ended up making the decision where I just went to FIU, took my insurance license, got my insurance license actually at 17. So I had to wait a full year to collect my license, because you had to be 18 to collect my license.
You already knew what you wanted to do.
Yeah, at that point, it was, my dad had, drawn out a path, and I was, let's just get on the right path, So that's what happens, right? I ended up taking that path, and I ended up going to, which obviously now I know the system, now I know everything, and I wish I would have gone into Weber 100%. If you give me that choice again, I go to Weber 100%, maybe redshirt the first year and transfer out. I didn't know about being able to transfer out and all the logistics of those things.
I didn't know anything either. My mom either. My mom was a little Hispanic lady.
Correct. For people that aren't informed. And then I think that's when high school coaches have to come into play. And you need to sit down your guys that are able to play in the next level, and you need to teach them like, hey, this, you could be recruited by certain teams or certain schools, and if you feel like you could have a better chance at somewhere else, you could take that step. Right. Nobody told me that.
Yeah.
And neither has, and obviously my dad didn't know that either, so I just felt like the move was just go to FIU, do my 4 years, and then, just jump into the family business, which is what I ended up doing, which, it was successful, I'm not going to lie to you, but, I'm not gonna, at the same time, I do regret it. I wish I would have played some college ball somewhere, I know I'm not going to go to the NBA, but just that experience.
You get to play the sport you love an X number of years more.
Exactly. So that's pretty much the little background of my athletic. Then obviously now I play a little flag football. I still play in adult league basketball. But soon that's going to change, because, I got the little one coming. I have him playing T-ball. So, which that's amazing.
Yeah, right. Can't wait for him to grow up and see what that's going to turn out to be.
Oh my God.
Little 31 running around.
God. Yeah.
So see all the information that there's out there now. This is part of the reason why this podcast exists, because there are a lot of athletes that, like, I waited till my senior year as well to do something. That's already like very late in the game. Like by like your sophomore year, you should start having the conversation. Already taking ACT, SAT prep. Like not just waiting till senior year to do it once. That's what I did. You know, like there are little things you can do like with your hours and like so it's like a 4-year thing, not like a cram it all together in a 1-year thing or like.
And again, and I think that has to do with the teaching of it. And again, the information, like you said, it's perfect for kids in high school that it's never too early to start. You know what I'm saying? Like 9th grade, 10th grade, like, and nowadays you have kids getting followed by like, you know, camera guys and stuff like that and putting all your content out there on YouTube. Like that's a thing now, you know, which is great for recruiting purposes and being able to be looked at from all these different types of universities. But I do think that, you know, in schools, or whether the coaches or athletic directors should kind of push for maybe a course or a class or an after school program once a week or something where you teach the kids about the next step, what to do, you know, responsibilities, you know, things that can help you.
They're actually applicable to real life.
Correct. You know, not have to take geometry
or like some random geography or whatever, bro. Just like these random classes.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously all these experiences, they make you the person you are today.
Of course.
You know, and I know for a fact that when my kid's in that situation, you know, I'm going to push for him to go.
Yeah.
You know, like I know that I didn't go, so I want him to experience that. And I'll be knowledgeable enough to be able to get it done. You know, I think. And
not only that, but parents shouldn't be like, you're going to do your due diligence. All right, I know you're going to dive in, you're going to know the ins and outs. But the parent, for example, I brought Nico's boy, Sean, from, I don't know if you saw him playing Worlds. He plays at Virginia.
He plays at Virginia.
His mom had to dive into everything to show Sean, like, look, these are the rules for transferring. Like, if you want to go to this school, you need this many hours. Or a parent shouldn't have to do that. Like you said, like a coach should be able to mentor you or not even mentor, not even that far, but just explain to you, look, this is a situation, Devin. If you do this, this is what's going to happen. Or, you know, you have this many years to get this done.
Well, I think that a coach, a high school coach, believe it or not, for me, is probably one of your most important coaches, you know, because let's be real, like, at least for me, it's dad at that age, you know, and then coach right after. And some people don't have that. Yeah. So it's coach and coach only. Yeah. So these kids depend on you, you know, and your job is to guide them. You know, your job isn't to just coach them for 48 minutes or 60 minutes, however long the football or the basketball game is, right? Yep. Your job is to make those boys become men. Like you have to take accountability for that. I mean, I started coaching now, right? Flag football, little kids, you know, like 10-year-olds and 12-year-olds, right? And I'm watching, we had a playoff game on Monday, which we lost, but I'm watching these kids play, right? And they lose. Right. It was a tough game. It was a shootout. It was like 35-32, whatever. They ended up winning on one of the last plays. All my kids are crying. Right. All of them. And they're 12-year-olds. Right. And I was like, all right, I think they're a little too old to be crying. But I was like, people deal with defeat in different ways. Right. Right. But I was like, let's see if we could use this as like a learning process. So, you know, I was like, all right, you guys done? All right, you guys had your 5 minutes. All right, listen, this feeling right now, I want you to make sure that you don't want to feel this way again. You know, come back next season. We're going to work hard, right? We're going to practice. We're going to do all the things that we're going to do. And we're going to come back and be better, right? And on top of that, we're going to do it with class because the other team, side note, the other team was just showboating, doing the gritty. Everybody's doing gritting and all this stuff. Yeah. It was whatever. Obviously, it's fun for them. I get it. But when you're on the losing end of that, you know, burns. You don't like it. For sure. You know. So I was telling the kids and I was like, all right, this is a teaching moment. And this is the part of, all right, this is what's going to happen for next season, coaching part, right? Mm-hmm. Then I'm trying to instill in them how can I make them become men, right? And I'm trying to talk to them and telling them like, listen, what you do, your work ethic on the field, right, needs to be the same for the classroom, needs to be the same for at home when you need to listen to your mom or your parents. And you need to use that. And that's going to help you become the person you want to be. right? And it's very important that you take accountability of yourself. And I'm telling all these guys, and probably those 12-year-olds don't even know what I was talking about, but as long as I threw the seed out there, and hopefully let it grow.
Listen, that's much better. You sending the right message and molding them, and especially in a vulnerable state when you're like, oh, I lost,
Yeah.
instead of parents or coaches being like, oh no, they cheated, that's why you lost. Or or making them feel like them losing was like them being betrayed, or, oh, it's because of the refs, or no, it's because they did you wrong, or they cheated. Like, no, you just lost.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And it's okay to lose sometimes. Like, it's
Agreed.
all right. We're in a culture now that, not just sports and life in general, that's a whole other podcast, but,
for real.
but with sports, like, way too many participation trophies. Like,
oh yeah, they gave us by the way, they gave us participation trophies.
Lord.
I told my guys, I was like,
trash is right there.
I know. I was like, you guys do what you want with this, because maybe it was the first, like a few of the kids, was the first time they've ever played in a league. Maybe they want to keep that. I was like, you guys do what you want with this, but I'm not taking one home. That's what I said. I was like, I'm not taking home. And I told the commissioner, I was like, what the f- is this?
Like, what kind of message are you sending?
He's like, you're telling me I've had to come around. He's like, I used to play in Flagami in the 70s, where a parent would walk up to a kid in the middle of the mound because he didn't throw strikes and beat the shit out of him. He's like, you telling me about participation trophies? Right. I had to come around. He's like, we're the Boys and Girls Club. Man, we have to do this. I'm like, all right, I don't approve of this, but it is what it is.
And from what I've heard, because I coach a lot of kids and stuff, it's usually, not always, but it's usually the losing parents, like the kids of the losing parents, whatever, that they push for that. Like, you learn a lot from losses, man. 100%. Like, you don't have to win everything.
No, listen, 100%. You learn a lot more in losses than you do in wins.
For sure.
100%. And, I've heard several coaches say that, is that we don't lose, we learn, and it's true. You take a game, whether you lost or whatever, and you dissect it and you learn from it, and you come back stronger. And that's what's going to help you become the team that you want to be.
And I think a lot of coaches are like, going back to what you said before about taking the job a little more seriously, about molding teenagers, like adolescents, into men. For a lot of coaches, it's just a check, and a small one at that. You know what I'm saying? So you do it more for the love of the game. So like, if you don't love the game, because the pay is not great, let's be honest, at least for public schools in Miami. I can't speak for, because I heard in Texas, coaches get paid really well in Texas for high school football, but
they got boosters and shit.
Bro, they get paid, bro, like 6 digits. Some head coaches for high school football, but Miami's not the case, and I think it's more of like a, you get what you paid for kind of thing with teachers too.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's like really good teachers that are accountants or lawyers or like something else, because Miami's so expensive. Like, you have to make a sacrifice almost to be able to do what you love, and it's a tough place to be in.
My wife's a teacher, and she's an amazing teacher, honestly. And I see exactly where you're coming from, and it sucks.
It's a thankless job.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. I agree with you there.
And one thing, speaking of, it's a little off topic, but it's on topic kind of. I like that DeSantis spoke. I'm not really a political person, but with the way the world's going, I'm trying to stay a little more into current events.
You have to.
And DeSantis was saying, I don't know if he already passed it or I don't know, but they want to do something about like tax related for high school kids, like in a year or two, or that before graduating, you have to like understand how to do. You have to take like a class or something like that. I think that's a step in the right direction. What we spoke about earlier about like doing things in high school that's actually functional.
Yes.
For life.
Now that you say it, you're right. He is it. You have to have that credit in order to graduate. I think that's what he's trying to pass.
I would have, well, maybe in my senior year, I would be like, this is stupid. But at some point after graduating, I would have said, you know what? I'm using this. This is really useful for me. Like, why can't kids learn how to open an LLC or an S Corp or something? Or why can't they understand cryptocurrency? Like, why can't they? There's so many ways to make money, like just on your laptop and on your phone. But with the way the system is set up, like the education system, like you're being pushed this way. Like, I'm not going to say ignorance, but like to be an employee when there's a lot of ways where you can get educated to like do more and be more. I don't know how you feel about that.
No, listen, I agree with you 100%. I was actually in my mind, I was thinking, because I think you had this conversation with Andy about school, about whether graduating, going through school or not, and the truth is that you learn 100 times more outside of those books.
Sure.
You know, those books teach you from here to here,
Right.
A to B. You know what I'm saying? But in life, you need C through Z.
Right.
100%. You know?
We're gonna quote Devin on that for sure.
Because, bro, for real, the things you encounter in life, like no book is gonna teach you. Like you sit in a classroom and half the time you're probably sleeping, or half the
You're
time
checked out mentally.
you're messing with the girl over there.
Right.
Your boys are throwing a little paper at you. You know, not really paying attention, and that's why, like, in a classroom, like if I were to ever be an educator or a professor or whatever, like I wouldn't even have books. I'd just have conversation. You know, you learn so much between conversation and relationships, obviously. You know, and how you make relationships is through conversation.
Speaking of conversation, man, let's talk about how, I don't know how else to say this. The next generation is awkward. Dude, like mad awkward, bro.
Yeah.
Like I talk to kids, I'm like, yo, like you need to talk to each other. Like you need to learn. That's a skill, like communicating and like being able to solve problems, or like, I don't know.
It's scary, man. And obviously it's because they're staring at a screen all day, you know, whether it's your phone, your iPad, computer, TV, you know. And I mean, I'll be honest, I'm always on my phone.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna lie to you.
It's my lifeline. Yeah.
Answering emails, or, you know, texting my friends, or whatever, phone calls. You know, my phone does not stop. My phone.
But the thing about our generation, though, we're in a part of in the history of technology where we saw like MySpace, Facebook, you know, like, so we had that time where our parents were like, oh, come back before sundown, like be active the entire day, summer camp, whatever. But now, like, I feel like a lot of parents are making this adjustment, which I don't blame you guys. I'm not a parent yet, but I understand why it's easy to just put an iPad in front of a kid. It keeps them still.
Yeah.
But I feel like too much of anything can be bad too. And you're starting to see it. I train a lot of high school kids and kids in middle school, and you're starting to see how like they just don't have those same skills that we had when we were at that age, or like they're not as outgoing, you know. And
so, question, right? Since you are training high school kids, right? And these are things that I see like from the outside, right? So a lot of things, at least in the basketball industry, right? I see a lot of these trainers, right, that they train one-on-one drills, and you'll have kids that instead of going to like a team camp, or instead of going to a regular camp where you have 100 kids, they're doing these one-on-one drills with a trainer, right? Yeah. Obviously, you're working on your skill set, you're getting a lot better. Do you think that has to do with them not being able to socialize with their teams, stuff like that?
I think some parents isolate their kids a little too much. Like an example I can give is my girlfriend. She used to be super legit in tennis before she had her heart surgeries, and her mom refused to put her in group training. So she had no friends. She was homeschooled because they would travel the world doing tennis tournaments. Wow. She had no friends. Like she only had her tennis friends, and she told her mom like, yo, I need friends. Like I can't be by myself with the coach. Like I'm always around adults.
Yeah.
And I think there are some parents that maybe they mean well. They're like, look, I want the coach's undivided attention for your skill set. That's why they charge more.
Of course.
But at the same time, some athletes, keeping it real with you guys, some athletes shrink. They do. When other talented athletes come together.
Of course.
And part of what makes sports so beautiful is you don't know the outcome. So you got to battle it out with someone. Like that's why that term iron sharpens iron. Like amazing athletes clash, they come at it, and only one person can win. You know what I'm saying? So I think some private training is good to some fundamental aspect, especially if you need it. Yeah. But I think there's nothing better than like a team or a group just battling it out, going at it, making each other better, holding each other accountable when they make mistakes too.
Of course.
You know, because I feel like a private coach, speaking from experience, so they're going to soften the blow a little bit when they critique you because they don't want to discourage you. It's just one-on-one. It feels more like an attack. Yep. If you're in a team and you mess up a pass like Devin, you know, or you shot something and like you were like double team and you could have dished it out. Devin, what are you doing? You know, that's going to wake you up more than like, hey, Devin, you know, I'm your private coach. You know, hey, maybe you should next time do it like this. You know, I don't know. I think team sports and group is good.
Listen, that's
a competitive nature, you know?
Of course, man. There's nothing like, you know, being in class and talking shit to your teammates and be like, I'm going to get you in practice today.
Right.
You know,
you had the whole day to brag about yesterday's practice.
Of course. You know,
so true.
I'm going to get you again today. You know, and I agree. There's nothing like that. There's nothing like
something else, in my opinion, that I'm seeing. The culture of practice has, like everyone's a gamer now.
Yeah.
Like Deion Sanders, one of my favorite athletes of all time. A long time ago, he put a post up saying like he was snapping. He was mad. He was genuinely upset. They must have had a bad practice at the university that day. And he goes, you guys want to be great, but you don't want to practice hard. You don't want to have good habits. You want to take reps off in practice. But practice is like the part where you sharpen your craft.
Supposedly, if you go really hard on practice, then the game is easy.
Right.
Because... And if you're competing within your team and making them better,
right,
the game should be easier.
Yeah.
Because you're going to play a less competition, or even if you're going to play just as good competition, just the fact that you guys are battling it out with each other, then when it comes to the game, you guys should overcome that adversity.
It's almost like conditioning, like you're conditioning your team to like constantly batting it out. And like, it might be a shock to you. So my team was very soft in high school. Like against teams that we knew we were going to win, they were studs all of a sudden. But then against certain teams that like we weren't sure, like a lot of guys shrunk, and think about tackle football. Like you either show up or you don't. Once those pads start clapping, a lot of guys go quiet, and I think that says a lot about an athlete's like heart and nature, like to want to win. And I think a lot of younger athletes now are more worried about like looking good on their phone, versus just winning.
I agree.
I feel like part of what makes a good athlete is being okay with making mistakes and just going for it. But some kids are worried about getting mossed, or like they'll do stuff and like, I don't know, like something that I'm seeing from the outside. I
will tell you this though. Probably the prior generation to us says that about us, right? For sure, they're like, "Oh, these guys are freaking retarded." They're not them dudes like we were,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I guess it's just every generation just gets worse.
It just complains about the next generation. So going to college, did high school prepare you for college, education wise?
No.
Me neither.
So honestly, I had a better GPA in college than I did in high school.
Same here.
Yeah.
Same.
So, and it was
not in the beginning, but overall,
you got there. Yeah. So I would say that college is completely different than high school. High school for me, again, I don't know if things have changed, but high school for me was a lot of busy work. You have homework to turn in every day and all these things. And then college is pretty much like, hey, you got a quiz on Thursday, and then you got your midterm exam next Friday. It's going to be on chapters 1 through 8. Go figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Huh?
You're like, I have to read a book? Like, I have to study? Like,
yeah. And
it's just 2 tests the whole year?
That's what it was.
The whole semester?
That's what it was. And then it's like, so, and obviously, like, I'm sure it happened to you in the beginning. It was like, whatever, I'm good, whatever. And then, reality hits when that first grade comes in. You got fast. A 38.
You're like, wait, whoa.
Is this at a 40? Like, no, sir, it's at 100. And then you're like, okay, so accountability is the first word that college comes to my mind, and that comes quick. And I would say that once you study and you read those chapters and whatever, then obviously quizzes and tests become easier. But yeah, I definitely had a better GPA in college than I did in high school.
Me too, man. I was extremely overwhelmed. I was in Ohio, super cold. I was miserable. They moved me from safety to corner. I was like, I don't play corner.
Yeah.
I did well, but I was just butthurt. I was like, I don't want to play corner. And then school wise, like you said, I was just brushing it off to the side. I was like, I'll do it some other time. Cause I was in the culture of like my grades were given to me in high school. So I didn't work for my grades, like I was an athlete. They let me sleep in class because, he had a game last night. I would walk in late with my some kids in my class would hate me because I would come in with breakfast to my first period in the morning, and then she'll let me get away with murder. But someone else is late, go get a pass, or So even though in the time it was great, it hurt me for college, and once my GPA was like a 0 point something, I had to get it back up.
Of course. And I would say, I mean, I didn't have to tackle sports and school. you know, so which obviously for you, it must have been so crazy.
Yeah, it's overwhelming, bro.
You know, I mean, I'm not going to lie. I worked. I mean, I've been working since I was 15, you know, even if it was a few hours at my pop's insurance agency. Yeah. But I worked, you know, all through college, you know, last year of high school, you know, I would do early release and I would go straight to the office and I would work, you know, a few hours a day, whatever, got my little check, you know, and then all through college, you know, on days off, like I would take classes in the morning so that I would work in the afternoon. But still, like you can't compare that to having to be in sports. I think
it's similar. It's just maybe the wear and tear on their body's not the same because you're so physically drained and it's hard to focus in class and stuff. But as far as having your schedule full, it's exactly the same. Like you have to still like shower, eat, you know, have some kind of social life. And then once all your hours are filled up, you still have to like study at some point. And I think for me, the biggest transition, the hardest transition for me was to understand that you're not going to get by just staring at the teacher's face in a class. No. You have to get your head in the books and like give it time. And then, like you said, once I gave class its individual attention, my grades went to like A's and B's. Like school is not that. Well, hold on. Doctors and lawyers, you know, engineers. I'm sorry.
That's a besides level,
you guys, man. Besides you guys, you know, scientists, you know. But besides that, like a regular, you know, major, it's not that hard. No. Like it's really not.
If you put the work in, you're gonna get results.
And another thing too, guys, if you're I've mentioned in previous episodes, if you're struggling in school and college or even high school too, in college, like the professors have hours where you can go see them, you know, like make an effort to speak to them. Hey, I'm struggling with this. I suck at this, you know, and the professor's gonna help you. Or if not, they'll give you a tutor, which is probably a graduate assistant trying to get their hours or something like that, like a senior in school. Or, you know, someone getting their master's or their doctorates, and they'll tutor you and then they'll help you. And that helped me with math. Yeah. And I got straight A's after that. They showed me how to do this. And then I went from F's to A's.
It's never always ask questions, man.
Yeah.
That's what I say.
What's the alternative? You sit there not knowing anything the whole semester?
Correct.
But people are scared to look dumb. It's like, no, I think that's dumber.
I agree. I agree. I mean, you ask a question like, hey, I need help, you know, and maybe you get a professor who's a dick. It's like, that's not my problem. Right. My problem is to give you the lesson. You're supposed to. Yeah. So
I've had those before, guys.
Of course. Yeah. Everyone's had. You know, so at that point is you got to make a decision. Now, are you going to sit in the corner and bundle up and cry about it? Or are you going to find a classmate that, you know, you could see that's doing well and be like, hey, I need some help. You mind if I, you know, sit around with you while you study and you can kind of help me out, and you got to make that effort.
Another thing that really helped me, guys, and this might sound simple and dumb, but half of my battle was just knowing when things were due. Yeah. That was half of my battle. I'll go to class. I'm like, oh my God, we have a test today. I'm like, oh my God, we have a paper due today. No idea. So I bought a whiteboard and this changed my life. Like, and it's just so simple. It's a whiteboard. But for the entire month, I would put every date when things were due in my class, and nothing ever caught me by surprise again. And then magically my grades went from F's to A's, you know, just knowing when they're due. That's half the battle.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
So,
let me see. So what's your takeaway from college? You know, you being in the insurance business, did you feel like it was functional for you for what you're doing now? Or you feel like you did it just to get that piece of paper because your parents were immigrants, stuff like that?
So, I mean, obviously,
it's like the American dream for Hispanics, right?
I would say you hit it right on the nose, honestly. Like, I literally went to college just to get that little certificate and give it to my dad and be like, I did it. Here you go.
The American dream.
Because the truth is that, you know, at 18 or it's whatever, 17, 18, I get my insurance license. Yeah. Right. I can run my insurance an insurance agency. Yeah. Right. So I'm like, I don't need school. Yeah. You know, and my dad was like, hey, you need to graduate, you know, you need to finish this, you know, you started it, you need to finish it. Yeah. Type of thing. And at that point, you know, I was working with a buddy of his because, you know, my dad had his agency, and then my senior year, he actually sold his business. Right. And he didn't want me to go with the people that bought us out because he, you know, I was 18, 19 years old. He doesn't want me signing a contract for a 2-3 year contract with
not knowing what you're getting into.
Exactly. You know, and not knowing what I was going to do with my life, even though we all knew what I was going to do with my life, you know? So he ends up working with the guys that bought him out. And then he put me with another agency, you know, and I was working with them, you know, for a few years. Until, you know, I got my own clients and I started making, you know, some money and and building my book is what they call it. You know, you have a book of clients and stuff like that. And so right around 2010, right? So I'm 20 years old. No, not 20. I don't even know. 20. Yes, I'm 20. I'm 20. I'm 21. I'm 21. That's right. I'm 21. I open up my agency.
Okay.
Right. And I'm on my own. Right. I'm in the back.
21.
Yeah. I'm in my back house. Right. We had a little guest house, converted it into an office. Right. And start grinding. Right. Start bringing all the clients, the little clients that I was able to obtain from, you know, the agency I worked at, you know, for those 2-3 years that I was through college, right? Bring them to my back, whatever. I go to my back house and, you know, I start up, whatever. 2 years pass, or not 2 years, like a 1 year passes. And then my dad finishes non-compete, right? Because once he got bought out in 2006, he had a 5-year non-compete.
Okay.
Right. So he couldn't go anywhere, couldn't work anywhere in the insurance industry. For those that don't know what a non-compete is, right? He couldn't work anywhere in the insurance industry up until that 5-year term was completed, which it was. And then he came on board with me. Right. And then so 2011 is when it really, you know, jumped off. And we're 2023 now. So 12 years later. And it's, you know, it was me and my dad in the back house. Right. Grinding it out. And then now, you know, we have 6-7 employees. Right. And it's funny, like I get this I have this conversation with a lot with people is that was the best case for me, as crazy as it sounds, because when I was 18, my dad had his own agency, had 18 employees, huge company. Yeah, it was a huge agency. He got bought out or whatever. They bought out, they went out their separate ways. And people are like, man, imagine if, you know, you just would have walked in there and, you know, you would have ran that business. And you think about it and you're like, yeah, I would have been hooked up.
Right.
You know, but it wasn't mine, you know, it was never.
That was your baby. Like you started that from the ground up.
So when I turned 21 in 2010 that I opened the Delatorre Insurance, before it was called D&D Insurance, D&D for me and my sister. And when I opened up Delatorre Insurance in 2010, like I was like, it's mine. You know, I made the logo like on Microsoft Paint, I think it was.
Wow.
You know, and I made the logo and I was like, all right, this is me. No turning back. And I will say that grind that I've put in for the last 12, 13 years, you know, definitely made me into the person I am. And it's made me, you know, thankful that I had at least, I would say like a boost, right? You know, because obviously with my dad being in the industry, it makes things a lot easier.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm very thankful for that. You know, but I also,
you still took a lot of initiative too.
Correct. Though. I'm not going to take away on the fact that I was like, you know what? I'm going to do this myself, you know, instead of just, let me just go work for that company and just have it handed to me.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
If you can go back to I can barely remember yesterday, but if you can go back to that state of mind, like, were you on the fence about like going to another company or starting your own, or you were hell bent on starting your own thing? Like, what was your mindset at that time when you were 21? So
at that time, I was working for somebody, right?
Okay.
And I was growing my book, right? I also had just finished school, right?
That's a big one. It's like a milestone, right?
Yeah, of course. So I was like, what do I do now? Do I do this full time, right? And I work for somebody, or do I open up, you know? And obviously my daddy, although was working with these other people, he was going to help me out, you know, get me going in the right track. And again, had that conversation with Pops and I was like, I want to open up. He's like, I'm old.
Like, I'm not going to carry this for you.
I was like, yeah, it's pretty much. And I was like, I know, but I'm young. And this is what I want to do. And he goes, all right, let's go. So he's like, obviously you got to start on your own. I got like 8 months left before I can officially move, you know, completely with you. And man, I just remember just being like, just walking to my backyard, right? Because it was in my backyard.
Right.
I was living with Pops, obviously. And I would walk to my guest house. And I was like, and I was just so proud, right? Like, I was like, yo, I did this.
Yeah.
You know, like,
it's yours.
And even though it's like nothing right now, right?
Yeah.
But the little that it was, I was just so freaking proud of it.
There's only one of it.
And people, and that's another thing that we do is like, we forget to tap ourselves on the back and be like, hey, good job.
Seriously.
You know, you're grinding, you're doing this, you know, look where you were a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You know, maybe it's not where your dream was,
right?
You know, but
you're coming along.
Hey, you're getting there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I remember like there was a few days that I was like, oh my God, you know, this is mine. I'm doing it. You know, and even now, like it hits me, like I'll pull up into my office and I'm like, wow. I'm like,
started at the back now,
yeah, you know, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. Like where we've come. And again, it goes back to that decision I made, right? Whether I go to Weber International and I play, you know, sports or whatever. Like I look at my life and I'm like, damn, I would have been 4 years back, right? Or 5 years back. I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, so as much as I wish I would have gone to Weber, I would say that because I didn't go, you know, I was able to get a head start into, you know, what my life and my industry and where I wanted to go.
Yeah. Crucial years.
Yeah.
And can you go a little bit over, if you remember, because a lot of entrepreneurs go through this little process that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about. When you work somewhere, right? So I'll put it in trainers terms. I work for LA Fitness. I make relationships with people. And then now I'm going off to do my own thing. You know, some are going to stay, some are going to go with you. Correct. Like, can you go in a little bit about like how you went about that? Like, you know, like what'd you do? How'd you sell it?
So the thing is, I always tell people, right? Like, I'm not a salesman. Like, as much as my job says I am, I'm not, you know, because the truth is that my job, like I go and I get you quote. Like, let's say you have your car insurance, right? I go, I get you quotes with 5 carriers, Progressive, Nationwide, you know, Travelers, you know, all of these companies. Be like, hey, these are the quotes I have. That's what I got. Now, if the price is good for you, you know, you take it. Yeah. And if it's not, stay where you're at.
Gotcha.
You know, like I've had conversations with my boys where I'm like, they're like, hey man, you know, State Farm is giving me X amount and Progressive is at this amount. You know, like, I think I'm going to stay. And I go, hey, that's your money, man. You work for it. You right? You're good. You know, I tell people all the time, I'm like, I'm not a very good salesman because I'm like, I always tell people to, you know, what's right. Yeah. Right. Which
it comes back to you.
Comes back to
you. Being honest always helps.
Because then they're like, you know what? I'd rather be with you, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess that is my sales pitch, is just being upfront and being like, hey, this is the best I could do.
Man,
you know,
can we talk about, I'm sorry to cut you off. Can we talk about how rare that is in Miami now?
100%.
Like, Jesus Christ, bro. Like, people are so full of, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, nobody's a person of their word anymore. Like, people want to be an entrepreneur, but like, they don't show up to stuff. They don't even tell you they're not going to show up. Yeah. They're unreliable. And I'm not saying everyone's like that, but it's becoming like a normal thing of the culture. And I feel like if you're just an honest person and you tell people what it is, like, it's so refreshing.
100%. And people are going to be understanding.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and obviously it took years for that though. Yeah. Like, I'm not going to lie to you and tell you, like, I'm not going to lie and tell you that I was always like that. You know, like, there was times that like I wanted to do everything I could to get that business, you know, and then I would be like, oh, but you could still, you know, like, now I'm just like, hey, this is what it is, man. This is the best I could do. I hope it works for you. If it doesn't, I wish you the best. Anything you need, here's my number. Yeah. You know, type of thing.
Sometimes that laid back approach,
it works.
You know, you're just like, look, this is what it is. Yeah. And that's it.
So,
you know? No smoke and mirrors.
And again, I mean, my business is a lot of trust, right? Yeah. Because I always tell people, like, hey, you're buying something that's just a piece of paper, and it's a promise that if on your worst day something happens to you, we're gonna be here to cover you, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's what you're buying. Yeah. Right. You're buying air. You're not getting something back. You're not getting a phone. You're not getting a toy, or you're not getting a PlayStation.
I've never thought of it that way.
Yeah. You're not getting anything. You're not getting anything physical.
Yeah.
You're getting a what if is what you're getting.
Yeah.
Right. Which is obviously, it's crazy, but I promise you that in that what if moment,
Yeah.
you're gonna be so happy you have it.
Yeah.
You know,
that's for sure.
of course. You know, I've had the craziest situations happen, and then they're like, "Oh, thank God I had insurance."
So you went into like pretty much one of my questions. So I usually ask people like in different careers, like how does your business differ from others? So besides that key point, like is there another way like you feel like running an insurance business,
I mean,
pros and cons or something that can be different?
I mean, for me, the most important thing, right, which is why I've stayed in this business and why I love this business, and I would say it's very successful, you know, is that everyone needs insurance.
Yeah. The demand will never go away.
Every car that's on the road by state law needs to be insured.
Yeah.
Every house that's bought in and that's mortgaged needs to be insured. Every business that there is out there needs to be insured.
Facts.
So it's definitely COVID proof. I will say it's definitely COVID proof. I mean, you know, obviously we lost a few businesses because, you know, some restaurants that shut down, that were my clients, they opened back up.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They needed insurance again. So I will say that it's a great business to be a part of. And another thing that's amazing of it, you know, if we're going to talk about the money aspect of it, is it's residual, right? Let's say you're my client, right? And you have your car insurance with me, right? You have your monthly payment that comes out automatically, right? Every time that payment comes out of your account automatically, I'm getting my commission.
Yeah.
Right? I'm going to sleep, and that 12 a.m. hits, and those progressives and all those insurance companies are collecting their monthly payment. I'm making money. You know what I'm saying? So that's another aspect of insurance that are at least the insurance that I do. Yeah. You know, there's obviously health insurance and life insurance that I don't do.
Yeah.
Right. I do something that's called property and casualty, which is obviously everything property, and casualty is liability. You know, you know, all these sues that we see, slip and falls and all those things. Those are the things that, you know, we focus on. And those are on an annual basis that you know, they renew the policies, and you're getting paid every year on renewals. You know what I'm saying? So it's, I mean, it's the only thing I've ever known. So I do envy certain people. Like I've had conversations with my buddies, and they're like, yeah, I used to wash cars. And then I went to selling cars. And then I went into retail sales. And then I went into, you know, sports and training. And then and someone that's done 15 things in their life. You know,
one of my boys is like that.
Yeah. Like, and it's crazy because like I envy those type of people because I've only done one thing in my life. I don't know nothing else. This is all I've ever done.
Well, there's pros and cons to that, right? So
of course,
in my opinion, like as if someone says life is long, that's depressing. That's super depressing because life is like, I feel like I graduated in 2010 when you were 21. I just graduated high school, and I feel like that was yesterday, man. And I finished college. That felt like a blink. And then now I'm a grown up, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. So that flies, man. So in order for you to be an expert in something, you have to focus on that one thing. Cause if you do a million things in a span of 10 years, like you're probably like mediocre at 10 things instead of being really, really good at one thing.
Yeah. You're absolutely right.
So there's pros and cons.
There is. You know? I don't know, man. Like I would love to do something else, you know, and maybe who knows, maybe in a few years, you know, maybe my book gets good, I sell it, and then I find something else. I mean, I'll be honest.
It's always an option.
I would love to be, I love sports, man. I love sports.
I know you do.
You know, I eat, sleep, drink sports, man. I mean, I have 3 TVs in my living room. And why? So it's I can watch 3 games at a time.
I need all of it.
March Madness tomorrow, I turn on all 3 games. You know, I'm watching all 3 games. And my wife is like, how do you focus? And I was like, I don't. It's just, I love it all though. You know, it doesn't matter. I'm watching everything. It doesn't matter. And so I do wish I would have done something in sports, but who knows, man? I'm only 33, so
it's not stopping. Yeah.
Yeah. So I love the podcast thing. Yeah. You know, I think it's super cool. Thanks, you're doing a great job.
Thanks, Brody.
Of course. And what we spoke about earlier, man, you're educating the young guys.
I'm hoping the right people are watching it, bro. That's all we can do is provide a platform. Hopefully the parents, like how we spoke earlier, like the parents that have a young athlete can watch it and be like, man, we're kind of in that situation. Like maybe I should do this or do that.
Or even if they reach out to you.
Yeah,
like,
even better.
Hey, I'm going to call Lulu, he knows what's up.
Doors are open, man. 31 Vision. Our doors are always open. So so I like to ask everybody this so we get some good answers. So if you can travel in time and talk to younger Devin, what would be like one piece of advice you would share?
Probably.
I love when this happens.
Yeah, I know. So I'm going to tell you the truth. It's definitely has to do with my wife. Right?
Okay.
So I met my wife in high school.
Okay.
Right. We were high school sweethearts.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. High school sweethearts. And then my senior year, I transferred from Miami Christian. We were both at Miami Christian.
That makes that move bigger.
So I transferred to St. Brendan. She transfers to LaSalle because she used to hoop.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how
Hoopy family. Of course it was.
Loving basketball.
You saw her shoe. You're like, oh my God. The hard eye emoji. Like
me and my wife were loving basketball before that movie came out. Even though that movie came out like 20 years ago. It doesn't matter. So, I mean, I would say what I would tell my younger self, it's definitely like hold on to her. Don't let her go. That woman, bro, she has pushed me to be the man that I am today. She's given me the two greatest gifts in the world, which are my kids, which your parents all tell you, like, you're gonna find out the day you have a kid. They are 100%. Dude,
your day has come.
that love for a kid is so different. Sure. And like the little milestones, they just mean everything, right? Like I got my kid to now pee and poop in a toilet. Right? Dude, I almost threw a party. Yeah. I'm like, we made it. We did it. It's amazing. And it's like and it's the stupidest thing. Like if you really think about it. Makes sense, though. But and I don't know, man. I would say like to my younger self is like, hold on to that. She's gonna help you be the man you are today. Because I truly believe that like in a very successful man, there's a woman right next to him. Not behind him. Because they have that saying that like, oh, behind a great man, there's an amazing woman. Yeah. Like, no, me and my wife, we walk side by side, and I push her to be great and she pushes me to be great. I go to watch her coach and I take my notes. Oh. She's like, what did I do wrong?
The feedback.
And I give it to her. I'm like, you should have done this. You should have done that. And that's in everything we do in life. We communicate super well.
That's amazing.
And yeah, man, I would say
that's a healthy relationship right there. 100%. Being able to critique each other and push each other.
That's my ride or die, man.
That's amazing, bro.
So as crazy, as successful as like my business has been and as amazing as my sports, the best thing I ever did was marry that woman. For real. I really mean that.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to the wifey.
Oh. Yeah,
the fellow hooper, which I did not know.
She's a hooper.
That's awesome. So, before we go, man, do you have any advice for any high school athletes? Any of for the hoopers out there worldwide? Anything you want to leave with? What
I would say is dive into your craft, man. And I would tell you, don't be scared to ask questions. Don't be scared to ask those tough questions, those awkward questions. If you're on a team and you're not getting playing time, hey coach, can I talk to you for a second? Hey, what do I need to do to get on the court? It's different than being like, hey coach, I want to play. Like, what's going on?
Very different.
So it's like, hey coach, what do I need to do to get on the court? No, I need you to do this, this, and that. If they don't have an answer for you, you already know that's not the coach for you.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? If they have an answer for you, then you go work on that. You know what I'm saying? That's what I would say. I would say is be involved. If there's something that you want in life, you go get it. And you're not going to go get it by letting it pass. You got to be aggressive on that point. You have to go get that. You have to go ask those questions. You got to go talk to coach. And just like, if you are looking for the next step, right? If you're looking to play college ball, right? You should ask your coach like, hey coach, I want to play college ball. How can you help me? I didn't ask that.
Me neither.
I didn't ask that.
Nope.
And I wish I would have,
Here.
I wish I would have asked my coach, like, hey, do you have any hookups? Hey, do you have do you have a camp that I could go to? Is there something that I can do so that I can be seen?
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? That's what I would tell the young.
Well said, bro. Well said. Well, guys, that wraps us up for today. If you found this educational or entertaining, please share the show. That's the only way we're going to grow. Thank you guys for tuning in.
Peace.